Is he going to kill women and children?
Only from evildoers.
I rest my case.
So baby, wait, babies can
So
be evil.
for the guy who was saying Jesus never did any bad, all of a sudden he went for the evildoers.
He's not done any bad yet, has he?
Also,
No, because in the 3 years of history which you have in the Bible, it only talks about peace and turning the other cheek, because he did not have the ability or the authority to go against the Roman emperor.
no, you don't.
He was a weakling.
He went against the Roman Emperor.
No, he did not.
He
He said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar.
He rode on a donkey against Caesar.
He rode against the donkeys going against the emperor? What's this guy on about?
He never ran
So
away.
Jesus is riding a donkey, that means he's actually going against the
He
emperor.
said he wasn't going against it. Of course he went against the Emperor.
But then,
he knew when he was
Do you believe
rode into town,
do you believe
he was
Jesus
going to get...
do you believe Jesus was the God of the Old, do you believe Jesus was the God of the Old Testament?
No.
So what kind of a, are you a Christian? Are you even a Christian?
Jesus turned his back on the Old Testament. Jesus went against the Old Testament.
Are you a Christian?
and the
Are you a Christian?
I don't know if I am. I believe Jesus came in.
So you don't know what is your religion even?
Well, I'm a Christian by birth, but I mean...
Okay. If you're a Christian,
Yes.
then who was the God in the Old Testament?
No. Forget the Old Testament.
No, don't forget.
Jesus had nothing to do with the Old Testament.
He did actually.
No,
In fact, Jesus said anyone who changes a dot from the Old Testament is called the least in the kingdom of heaven. Maybe you should read the Bible more often.
I do read the Bible sometimes.
So what does he
When I
mean?
can't sleep in a hotel
So what does he mean when he says anyone who changes even a dot or a jot in the Old Testament, i.e. in the law, then he's called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
If that was the case, then why would he go in the temple and throw out the moneylenders and tip up the tables? That was going against...
By the way, the Old Testament doesn't preach that is going against those
Jesus was
people.
very brave. He went unarmed and he confronted the powers that be at the time. He wasn't scared of them against moneylenders or usury. He wasn't scared of Caesar. He wasn't scared of anybody.
No, you don't understand what I'm trying to say here.
Completely
Jesus,
understand.
if you read the Old and the New Testament,
Forget the Old Testament.
Okay, how about the New
Jesus,
Testament?
There was Jesus.
Okay.
Then there was the New Testament.
so you guys believe in the New Testament.
Jesus disowned the Old Testament.
That's fine. Do you believe in the New Testament? Do you believe Jesus would have advocated anything about killing anyone? No? Okay, have you read Matthew?
No, I haven't, but that...
You know, this is the New Testament now. What more you want? That's the New Testament. In Matthew chapter 15, go home and read it if you haven't.
Did Jesus
Matthew,
write
listen.
Did Jesus
When
write
you're,
it?
wait a minute. When you're in your hotel room, and you got the Gideon's Bible in there, maybe that's the only opportunity you can read the Bible. So go and open chapter of Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew.
Yes, go on.
Yes, read Matthew 15, verse 3 and 4. Jesus said, this is the command of God, that anyone who curses the mother or father shall be put to death. Have you come across that?
you've got me.
Obviously not.
No, I've not.
Obviously not.
I've never heard that.
How can I tell you anything about the New Testament when you haven't even read it?
I didn't know Jesus was into violence. You've got me on that one.
There you go. And I can show you many more, my friend. But since you want to go down, that's
No,
fine.
Jesus was into all that killing and stuff.
That's the thing, because
got me there.
your church doesn't preach to you about all these other
me on that
verses.
one.
They only tell you about turning the other cheek, love your enemy.
learned
Am I right? But they don't tell you about the difficult verses
The dark side of Jesus.
which your
I'm not
Christian
buying that.
church doesn't want to tell you about.
Jesus' dark side. I'm not-
Exactly, yes. The one that your church has kept you away from all this time. That we Muslims have to enlighten you about that, unfortunately.
The Old Testament was full of violence. The Old Testament.
And the New Testament, when you talk about the second coming of Jesus,
The Old
he's going to kill every enemy of his. He's going to make them his footstool.
The Old Testament.
Yes, what is all that about?
The Old Testament was full of psychopaths and schizophrenics.
How can children be evil? Think about it. How can children be evil? That is I just gave you the verse, Matthew 15:3. Anyone who curses the mother or father shall be put to death. That is the children who are going to be put to death.
Jesus is one of your prophets.
Matthew 15:3 and 4. Read it for him.
Right.
My one, I don't know the translation, but it says,
What does it say? Go on, read it aloud.
for God commanded, so he's talking to the Pharisees, for God commanded, honour your father and your mother, and whoever reviles father or mother must surely die.
There you go.
Wow, there you go then.
There you go. Must surely die means how? How will they die? Yes.
Oh, he said must die.
You know,
He must die.
You know,
He said kill him.
one more piece of one more piece of information about that. That is actually an Old Testament commandment which Jesus is preaching.
He's repeated it.
Exactly. Now, listen. Jesus came about 1400 or 1500 years after Moses. why would he be preaching? Why would he preaching such violence against the children
Well, I don't know the context
in the New Testament? You tell me.
He could be quoting.
Yeah, why would he be quoting?
I don't know. Everybody quotes people.
You know what he says? He doesn't only quote it, he says this is the command of God. It's not a parable, by the way. It's not something that is just some sort of metaphoric
He's
term.
quoting God then, isn't he?
You see, he quoting God because he himself.
Or is he quoting one of the prophets from the
No.
New Testament?
He's quoting. He says it's a command of God, not a command of a prophet. A command of God means what?
I'd have to read a little bit.
Read it. Read the whole thing for it. Can you read it from verse 1 so he doesn't say I'm taking it out of context?
No, you're 99% right, but he doesn't say. What did he say?
Well, it depends which verse, which version of the Bible you read, my friend.
No.
I'll tell you what. Look, by the way, which version is that? Which version is the one you read? ESV. Let's read from NIV. By the way, that's English Standard Version. I'll read it from New International Version, which is also quite common. And if you can find it in your hotel room in the Gideons, I'm pretty sure it'll be the similar thing. So this is Matthew chapter 3. Sorry, yeah, Matthew chapter 15, verse 3 and 4. I'll tell you to read it if you don't mind.
I can read, but I haven't got my.
You got the glasses on, come on.
No, these are.
That's fine. Read it aloud if you don't mind. No? Okay.
I've got three
No
sets of
problem.
glasses.
No problem. I'll read. Any other Christian who wants to read it? Okay, it says here, Jesus replied, and why do you break the command of God for the sake of your tradition? So Jesus is speaking to I'll just give you a bit of background. Jesus speaking to the Pharisees, the Jews at that time, and they were rebuking his disciples, telling them that why do your disciples, or why do your followers do not wash their hands before eating, thereby breaking the command of God or tradition or something like that. So Jesus responds to them and he says to them, and why do you break the command of God for the sake of your tradition? For God said, honor your father and mother, and anyone who curses their mother or father is to be put to death. Read it.
I know, I read it.
Okay, so it depends on which version of the Bible you read. And this is from Exodus. From Exodus.
I don't understand the full context and everything of it.
Okay.
I got a bit of a gist that he's talking to the Pharisees.
So what do you think is the context here?
One potential argument I could posit is the fact that he's trying to point out the Pharisees' hypocrisy insofar as they're claiming that they're following the traditions of the law perfectly. Yes. And he's showing the fact that here's an example where they're not following.
Right.
So basically Jesus is telling them, wait. Jesus is,
Example against us.
hold on, but do you understand what he means?
I understand
What he's saying,
he's just
what he's saying is exactly what I'm saying. Jesus is rebuking the Jews for not following the command of God. And what was, wait. Let me finish. You didn't let me finish. The Pharisees have stopped following this command of God. So Jesus is now reminding them, refreshing the command to kill the unruly children.
Not to literally.
Not literally?
No, he's reminding them that they're not. He's reminding them.
What is he reminding them of?
Of that edict from God. He's saying.
And what is that edict?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean Jesus.
And what is that edict?
It doesn't mean that Jesus is saying.
My friend, what is the edict? What is the command of God? He's reminding them of.
Yeah, what he's saying to them, if you're so strict and pure and all
Yeah, go on. Because I think you're very emotional. Let him answer respond. Yeah, go on.
It seems not necessarily that he's commanding them to do it, right? But the fact that, because it starts off in...
Is he reminding them?
Yeah, but what can I say why? So in verse 2, the Pharisees are the ones saying, why do your disciples break the tradition of their elders so they do not wash their hands when they eat? So right, they're the ones starting off this criticism.
Correct,
Jesus.
Yes, which is already I said, right?
No, I don't know. I didn't hear that. But
Well,
maybe you did, right.
it's on camera.
Anyway, and then Jesus then responds by showing an equivalent example
Yes.
of how they're pointing out this tradition they're not following, but they're actually not following this.
Right, no, Jesus isn't for it.
Which doesn't. I'm not asserting either way that he's saying command or not command. What I'm saying is it doesn't necessitate that he's commanding them to follow this Old Testament law. Merely, but one thing that we can see from it clearly is the fact that he's showing their hypocrisy. That's one thing we know.
Okay.
We don't know that he's asserting they have to.
All right, let's take that one step at a time. First and foremost, do you agree? Do you agree with Jesus that this is the command of God?
Yeah.
Okay. Is Jesus telling them why do you break the command of God or not?
No, he's telling them.
Do you mind? I was talking to him. You had your chance. Now it's his turn. You told me to be quiet when he was talking.
Yeah, but
And
you've done most of the talking. If you went to Spain for a holiday, you come back
you
with
didn't,
sunburnt tongue.
my friend, you didn't even know the context of this. Let the people who know the context speak, please.
You've done the most
With
talking.
all due respect, we are not. So what I'm saying is that did Jesus remind them this is the command of God? Okay. Why would Jesus remind them this is the command of God if it wasn't even applicable? Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Because of the fact that they're the ones signing off criticism of his disciples, and he's using one case study example to show the hypocrisy. It doesn't.
But I agree with that. We already agree on that.
So we agree on that. But what I'm saying is that you're not warranted. It's not explicitly evident that he's also commanding them to follow that.
You haven't answered my question, my friend. Why would Jesus remind them of a command of God which was inapplicable at that time? It doesn't make sense, does it? The only reason, listen, the only reason somebody will remind you of a command or an edict is because that is still applicable today.
Could it not be? Okay, wait. So with this specific example, he reminds them of it.
Yes.
And it's evident that he reminds them of it.
The fact that he says this is a command of God, yes, makes it even more strong in the sense that those people are talking about tradition. But Jesus is actually giving them a counter-argument from not only tradition, but something greater than that, which is what? The command of God.
But here's the reason he brings up that specific example is in the context that shows that they weren't following that.
Of course they weren't.
Exactly. That's why he brings it up. So if they're following other commands...
But which is only proving my point. Okay, go on,
Imagine you've got 10 commands, and the Pharisees are following 9 out of 10 commands, and they're not following this one command, and that one command is this thing about keeping your children from disobeying.
And?
Right? Then of course he's going to highlight that one command that they're not obeying.
Yes.
And that's the point.
So was he expecting them? Was he expecting them to obey this command?
That's the point we don't know.
That's the question I'm asking you, because you seem to listen. You seem to have analyzed everything except the question I'm asking you.
I am answering.
The question.
I'm answering.
No, I asked you 3 times now. What is the point of Jesus reminding them of a command which they were not supposed to follow?
Because that was the one command that they weren't following.
No, but were they expected, based on Jesus, were they expected to follow it?
And my answer to that's a separate question. That specific question is, it is not explicitly evident from the context.
No, but logically, rationally, listen.
It's possible to infer it. I'll give you that.
Yes.
But it's not logically necessitated.
Okay. Would it be possible for it not to be a command that is valid? Yes. Would it be possible?
Yes.
Then would it be possible at the same time that Jesus is giving them a command which is already void? It's pointless for Jesus to point that out. Think about it. Okay, let me give an analogy. Imagine today we have the traffic law. Yes, one of the traffic laws is that when somebody is crossing on the zebra line, yes, the cars should stop. Well, at least in this country, Alhamdulillah, in Britain we got most of the people following this command. If the traffic law says that you have to stop, and somebody stops, then they are abiding by the law. But if the traffic law did not have this law, that you have to stop at the traffic law, so at the zebra crossing, or at the traffic lights, for example, then would there be any point of a traffic police officer come and remind the person who has crossed the zebra line without stopping when there were people crossing? Yes, would there be any point? Sorry, attempting to cross, not crossing. Yes, would there be any point of him reminding of a command that is not applicable anymore?
Probably not, but that's not.
No, don't say probably not.
I'll say no.
No, be sincere. Okay, now wait. Why is it not fair analogy?
Okay,
if a command is not applicable anymore, there wouldn't be any point anyone reminding you of that command. Is that right?
Several reasons why the analogy doesn't work.
Why?
First point was that in your analogy, you're not compensating for the other motivation, which we brought up, was the fact that Jesus is bringing up this command, irrespective of whether it's void or not, because of the fact that it's the command that they're not following.
Now, give me the analogy that I gave you. You said the analogy doesn't fit. I want you to give me with the example of the analogy of the traffic law, why it is wrong.
Were you saying people weren't following it anymore?
No, the people were not following it because listen to the command. You asked me a question, let me answer. The people were not following that law because it wasn't applicable anymore. But even then, the police officer comes and reminds them that this is the law which you should follow. You see what I mean? So if it is not applicable anymore, then there is no point of the police officer reminding them of the law which is null and void now. So Jesus telling them that this is a command of God, he didn't say this was the command of God. Jesus is telling them, why do you break the command of God for the sake of your tradition? You see what I mean? Does it mean it's not possible? Now it is confirmed that this was the law even then during the time of Jesus. Do you agree? No, you're not very convincing
The
there.
reason why-
Do you agree that Jesus
Like, why
confirmed?
I'm some-
Yeah, go on,
somewhat-
go on,
somewhat
go on.
confusion, because you know you have the
Because earlier you said it's plausible, it's X, Y, and Z. I'm saying Jesus confirms it.
I'm answering.
Yeah, go on.
Because of the fact that the Christian understanding of Jesus bringing in the new covenant sort of thing, right? And his not complete abolishment of the old covenant, but his instigation of the new covenant, the Pauline idea, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
For me, I haven't read enough to know, understand exactly when is that officially instigated. Is that during his ministry? Is that after the cross? That's why I'm saying that's.
But we are not dealing with that. We're dealing with this particular example.
The reason why that is exactly relevant is because of the fact that with your analogy, I'm not. Maybe you did encapsulate it in your analogy. But when we're talking about, you got to get the idea of a previous law and a new law coming in, right? And so when you're just saying this law is void, that doesn't compensate for the fact that we have a new law in place. And the reason why that applies here is because of Jesus pointing out that hypocrisy with this example and showing you're not following this one command.
Yeah.
He could be trying to show the fallaciousness and insufficiency of their current way of pretending to follow God, and thereby then bring in, here's now the new covenant which you are to follow. Implicitly, not explicitly, implicitly.
Yeah, but we are not talking about implicit, we are talking about explicit here.
I know, but my point.
Do you agree?
I
Look,
even said to
you know,
wait, just let me
before you finish this particular topic,
the one thing we said beforehand was the fact that it's not explicit. I said this before.
the command is explicit. You can't deny
I
that.
said it's not explicitly evident that Jesus is saying you have to follow this command.
Jesus is explicitly telling me for the no. Jesus saying this is a command. You are breaking the command of God. What does it mean?
Yeah.
Breaking the command means what?
They are breaking the command.
Okay, is the command applicable to them?
Yes.
Good.
Yes,
so we got one thing confirmed. The law is there.
Yeah.
The command is there.
Yeah.
The command is still valid.
And that bit,
Wait.
I already said I wasn't
Let me
sure
finish.
about
Let me
that.
finish.
I wasn't
The
sure.
command is no. It's not about you being sure. It's what Jesus already confirmed. You are breaking the command of God, which came what 1400 years from his time.
But he
So-
didn't say what you just said now.
No. He said you're breaking the command of God. Is there?
Yeah, but you just extrapolated it extra.
What did extrapolate from that?
He said that the law is still 100% relevant right now, right? And I said that he didn't say that or not. I probably can I just.
But isn't that
can I
inferred
just
already?
clarify? Can I just clarify? I think I agree with you, but because I don't know fully about it, when the new covenant, all that kind of stuff is instituted, I don't know.
By the
when
way,
I can
the new
say that.
covenant doesn't mean the old covenant is no more valid.
I know, but I'm saying.
What are we arguing about then? I don't know.
Because of the fact that it doesn't completely invalidate the old covenant, but there are certain things that you're not to follow from the old covenant, like the whole forbidden things about eating pork and so on. That's not the same in the new covenant. You agree on that?
Okay, so who made it now? Well, I would say legal or allowed it or permitted it to eat pork. Was it Jesus or Paul?
It was God.
What do you mean God?
Was it not in the book of
Yeah, but who commanded this? Paul or Jesus? Paul. Okay. Well,
It was God. God was talking to Peter in a dream. When he
well,
said about
but
this
Peter, look,
now and eat.
did Peter eat pork?
No.
There you go.
What were you missing? I'm saying that
What am I
he now
missing?
said it is now clean for you to eat it. Go out, kill and eat.
Okay.
That was from
If
God.
that was the case, did Paul and the council in Jerusalem, did they not have a disagreement about these particular rules of the law is still applicable for the people who are Jewish or who are within the law? Yes, the dietary laws. And then for the Gentiles is a different rule. So there was a disagreement already there as to who is allowed to eat pork and who's not allowed to eat pork. So it's not like you say that all of a sudden it was now permitted. Yes, it was kosher for everyone.
Well, my point is, it's not. I don't know. Maybe it is clear, but I haven't looked into it. But I don't know when this new change comes in.
Okay, so that is one thing we have clarified. The other thing is about circumcision. Another thing from the time of Abraham. Yes. What is the covenant that God established with Abraham with regards to circumcision?
Well, he says perform circumcision. In a nutshell, perform circumcision as a sign of our covenant between you, and I will
A covenant.
generations for one
Yeah, a
another.
covenant until the end of times. Yes? The end of time hasn't come yet, right? So was this covenant broken by Paul or not?
Again, all I'm saying is I don't know enough about this.
Because Paul said,
I'm willing to hear what you say.
I'm sure you have read about this.
read about it, but I don't know this
Paul said the circumcision